Frederick Schulze-Buxloh wants nothing more than to spend his twilight years in peace. In the township he helped build from barren land, Auroville. But now this man, one of its founding figures, has been asked to leave India, the country he has called home for more than 60 years. Frederick arrived in India in the year 1960, moved by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, Aurobindo and the spiritual philosophy of the mother. Frederick gave up his family inheritance, donated it all to the ashram and became a key force in building the utopian township of Auroville from ground up. From food to roads to schools, Frederick helped build it all. But now, the Ministry of Home Affairs has reportedly issued a Leave India notice to Frederick, accusing him of buying benami properties in Puducherry and Kodaikanal and of obstructing official development activities in Auroville. Let me now play you a short video on who exactly is Frederick Buxloh is.
4 days I'm going to be 86 years old. I'm German. I was born in the wartime. I came to India when I was 20 and I lived my 21st birthday in the Shivananda ashram in Rishikesh, drifting down the Ganges. I finally met the mother in 1960 in the ashram, and that experience changed my life. I landed up in Auroville in 1966. I was there when the idea was mooted. I was there when the first action were taken to build a road. I was there when the urn was brought out to the center where the inauguration was going to happen on 28th, 1968. I've been here ever since. Even when I traveled around, I met a lot of people. When I collected money, when I connected with the political leaders of the world, I met almost every prime ministers of India, starting with Jawaharlal Nehru, whom I met in 1960. My life has been dedicated to this place. My home is here. I live here. My children are living here. My grandchildren are living here. I have no other place to go. I have no money. I have given everything I had, a considerable inheritance I have given to the mother. If I ever been deported from here, there's nowhere for me to go. I have no medical coverage. I am under medical treatment in the government hospital in Jipma. I feel I should be given an explanation why my visa has been denied. No answer, no reasoning, silence. I wish I could respond to what I'm accused of. I don't know anything. I've given an apology for everything I might have done wrong, for all my shortcomings. Every evening when I go to bed, I ask the mother, please forgive me. Every morning I wake up, I dedicate my life to the mother's work. Auroville has been the dream. We all dream of a place which is larger than us. And that attracted the young people, that attracted me. Something which is bigger for the future. I was involved in the master plan. I fashioned the master plan with Roger. The mother gave her blessing to a large idea, a concept. We brought it to Delhi. I can't believe that somebody who has given his life, who has been here over 60 years, is unceremoniously just deported. I pray whoever has the authority to reconsider this and allow me to stay and finish my life in the place which my soul has chosen.
Sindhudar Jagadish, the resident of the Auroville Foundation, said Frederick was named in an internal inquiry report which accused him of allegedly inciting mob attacks and allegedly creating hurdles in developmental work sanctioned by the authorities. The foundation says these were serious enough for the government to act. Frederick, however, says he has not received any such notice from the government. He denies the allegations and says he's being targeted for standing up to several other things, particularly the new administration. India is my home. I beg your pardon. Auroville is all I have, says Frederick. With no close ties left in Germany and most of his children and grandchildren living in India, like he said in his video, Frederick says deportation would uproot the only life he's ever known, and that is in Auroville in Puducherry. A man who once fled the trauma of Nazi Germany as a child and found hope in India. He was just 10 when he was made to visit Dachau concentration camp, a horrific memory that pushed him towards ideals of unity and peace. It was those ideals that he says Auroville once stood for. Several Aurovillians and several supporters from around the world have signed petitions asking the government to reconsider, calling his deportation a humanitarian concern. And now, joining us today is Frederick Schulze-Buxloh himself. Frederick, thank you so much for making the time and joining us on the South Indian on this broadcast. Frederick, I want to first ask you that, that I saw that video, I read enough about you. Why is it what everyone is interested in? A man who's turned 86, who came to Auroville when he was 60, in the 1960s, and built it up from the ground, from scratch, getting bread there, seeing that the roads are laid. What do you think is the reason that you have been served a Leave India notice, Frederick?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. May I call you Sudha?
Yes, please.
Like to
it would be a pleasure.
I would like to correct right from the beginning. The government of India has been extremely benign from the very beginning to allow some experiment, an international experiment, on its state Tamil Nadu to be created. The mother was very insistent it should be in Tamil Nadu in South India. I also met the different chief ministers, and we have the blessings of the state, of the central government. So nothing came from the Home Ministry yet. What has come is a result from refusing to give a recommendation for my visa. And then automatic replies are coming, which has nothing to do with a conscious decision to deport me. I have not received a Leave India notice. I have only been told that the extension of my visa, which has been extended first by the mother recommended, then by people like J.R.D. Tata recommended, this has been refused by the Foreign Registration Office in Chennai. So again, I would like to plead to the government of India my gratitude to India and you, the government, representing Bharat Mata. So that would like to be clear. What made them me, I'm at the twilight, as you say, of my life. I try to bend my head and be quiet and stay quiet. But certain ideas for which I came, which is an experiment, an international experiment, and no other country in the world would have allowed something so unique to be placed on soil. And I tried to say, my family is here, my daughter was endangered by JCBs, and I stood in front quietly, no violence, nothing, just a quiet dana. Please don't do this to Auroville, to my children, to my grandchildren. That was all I can think of, maybe the reasons that say I protest or I obstruct what is called government work.
Now, it says that the recommendation is deemed to have come from the foundation secretary. Would you like to explain that? Have you had a chat with him or her? I presume it's a her. It's a bureaucrat, the foundation secretary, if that is correct, Frederick. Have you had a chat as to what really is creating a hurdle in giving an extension to the visa that you say you deserve, Frederick?
This is speculation. I think if I can, Sudha, you don't mind if I go a little bit deeper. I need a shake-up, or will need a shake-up, and maybe the instrument of the foundation and its secretary brings us to this wake-up call, which is a necessary thing. And I don't want to point fingers. The recommendation for a visa is actually a pro forma visa. All the previous secretaries have always based their recommendation of an internal examination of recommending an Aurovillian. That was a pro forma thing. The present one takes it upon herself or himself to decide whether that person is worthy to live in Auroville or not. And maybe that is also her function. I cannot figure out one particular incident where I might have either intentionally or unintentionally offended the secretary, the foundation, the ideals of Auroville, or the laws of the country. I don't know. I ask for an explanation, and I would pray that I be able to answer this accusation. It is mentioned, so many things are mentioned, that I have benami land, that I'm flying monoplanes over restricted area when Jayalalitha was in her house. I don't know. It is all mixed up. The accusations are just thrown at me, and I like to stay somewhere in the light of for which I came, and I pray to the mother that I be allowed to
Right.
spend my rest of my life in India.
Yeah, because according to Sindhuja, the notice was a result of an inquiry committee's report which named Frederick, among others, for buying benami properties in both Puducherry and Kodaikanal, obstructing developmental activities at Auroville, and organized mob attacks. Illegal activities can be leveled at anyone, like you say, but you said you haven't received any. These are serious allegations, Frederick. Now, if you are quoting Jayalalitha's time, I mean, that is history. I mean, to pull those things now to obstruct it seems rather strange to me, Frederick, because it's very clear what Sindhuja says, obstructing developmental works at Auroville. But for me, most important is developmental work can be subjective. But, inciting mob attacks, where is that coming from, Frederick Schulze?
Good question. You asked the question, I asked the same question. Neither do I know how to fly. I have never had benami land. That allegation that I hold benami was investigated and my name was cleared officially. These are old accusations with no foundation. So if you want to spend this time now to ask, is it right, is it wrong, we can do it. But my real hope is that we can get above this, what you say, accusation and counters. I do not know. None of the accusations have any grounds, and I have been cleared of anything which might have been said against me.
Have you heard anything further, considering that, it's been a couple of days and this story is now swirling? It's one of the biggest stories which is emerging from the south of India, from Puducherry. Have you heard anything so far? What is your deadline like? How are you preparing, considering that you are a man who's lived in the ashram for so many years, and I'm sure that, you may have no fear, Frederick, that way.
I must say, actually, even from people who were on the sidelines, even people who did not want to come forward, I celebrated my 86th birthday yesterday. There were over 500 people hugging me. I have never been kissed and hugged so often. But I feel that if there is a chance to reconcile, if there's a chance to express my in verbatim, personally, my apologies, if I might have offended somebody, I'm quite willing and happy to do so. I have a sense that it can be reconciled. But there has to be, you have to understand it's an international experiment. Mother wanted new forms, new ideas in education, in agriculture, in house building, and even in social experiment. We have to find new ways. And the government, both state and center, have been extremely tolerant with us. We have children who have grown up, they have no formal education, but the Indian school system allowed them to enter the formal education. So I'm really full of gratitude at this moment. And strangely enough, while I'm under pressure, the first thing which comes into my heart is gratitude to India and gratitude to the government.
Right.
I don't know more.
Yes, but Frederick, before I let you go, there's one thing which recurs in what you're saying is that I may have offended someone in the past. If I have, I need to be forgiven. Anything that you feel in retrospect, in hindsight, because in our twilight years, we introspect and think about what may I have done for me to have invited this, not illness or the loss of your loved ones, but an act like this. Anything particularly you feel that, maybe I just did cross the Rubicon here?
The Reka line. I have a certain attitude. I'm German. I might be offensive in my action. And when I walk through the villages and I greet people, I don't speak the language. I might have done things which are not done here. It's quite possible. Even though I've been 60 years, I've been trying to learn the language. I've tried to adjust to learn habits, because Germans is not my country. India is my country. So what I'm trying to say, even the secretary as a person, or any minister, or any joint secretary, or any media person, in my attitude, in my way of expressing, even my children sometimes when I talk, they say, "Oh, Papa, don't be so strong." I may be too strong. I don't know. I hope I can dress it in a way that my love and my gratitude comes out. I don't have one specific point where I say, oh, I have crossed the Rubicon. I don't know. I think it's my attitude. My attitude may be sometimes aggressive, maybe sometimes too stubborn, maybe I have too stiff a neck, too stiff a back, and I'm practicing bending. And like when the mother in her last year, she was totally bent forward, and
All right.
she had a great sense of humility.
Right. Frederick, on that note, thank you very much for speaking with News 9 and with me. And I hope that, you're happier in the next few days and you get what you're really praying for. Thank you very much for
I
joining
think
us.
your work might help in my happiness. Thank you, Sudha.
Thank you indeed, Frederick. Thank you indeed. And now joining us on the same topic is Sindhuja Jagadish, who's a resident at the Auroville Foundation. Vanakkam, Sindhuja. Thank you so much for making the time to join the show. Sindhuja, we were just now talking to Frederick and he spoke about that he really can't fathom why he's been served a Leave India notice. He said, I've lived here, Auroville is my home. I came here in the 1960s, I built it up from scratch, everything was built by me. And today I really can't fathom, although apparently the recommendation has not come from the secretary of the foundation. Sindhuja, you have been quoted in certain newspapers, but I shall not quote them. I wanted to come from you, Sindhuja, considering you're a resident of Auroville. What do you think has initiated this action of denying an extension of stay to Frederick Schulze-Buxloh?
I would not care to venture into speculating why, but I can tell you what has happened in the last 3 years, which might shed some light to what you're asking me. So Frederick is one among a few residents, I would say a fraction of residents who has been opposing development in Auroville, especially over the last 3 years. The opposition to Auroville's development, prior to these 3 years has been more covert, and the opposition to development in the last 3 years has become very overt. And I actually did watch Frederick come on live and speak about not knowing what he did wrong and just preventing a JCB from running over his daughter, I think he said. I would like to tell you that I have videos and photos which I myself have taken on site because I'm a member of the Auroville Town Development Council, where there was no imminent risk of life anybody. And Frederick has come in front of the JCB, sat in front of it and obstructed development in an attempt to prevent a road from being built in what he considered a territory that belonged to his friend. Now, let's be clear, Auroville Foundation has no private properties. Auroville Foundation is holding all Auroville's property in trust for humanity as a whole to build a city the mother dreamt of. And we have all been called here to participate to build that city. The mother actually clearly said that you are not called here. She actually gave this message to the engineers and architects of Auroville back in the 60s. She said, you are not called here to, I don't remember the exact words. She said that you are not called here to discuss the project. You are called here to build it as planned. So there was a chief architect, there is a master plan. Long story short, there have been delays to develop this plan and manifest this plan for various reasons, which if we have time today, we can touch upon. Or I would love to be invited over to TV9 for another interview where I can shed light on many of these topics with evidence. So Frederick is one among the faction of residents who have been overtly obstructing, not only by showing up in front of the JCB, but also by being part of a propaganda campaign. And he has been quoted in several media to say that the secretary represents, let me see, the secretary's actions are against the spirit of everything we have established here, and she is working against the mother's vision. He is quoted to say in an article in the News Minute, Auroville has never seen such violence, such destruction. They have reduced our spirituality to a game of symbols. Only people with no inner experience can think this way.
Right.
So these are all things that he has said to another paper.
Sindhuja, yes. The thing is that to protest, I think I'm speaking under the ambit of democracy is my right, and also I'm sure that the ashram, Auroville ashram encourages people to ask questions, because if you do not ask questions, you're never going to find the answers, and that's an eternal search. Having said that, I would also like to request you to talk about inciting mob violence. I mean, that is a very serious charge. You know, two charges which stand out for me. One is buying benami properties in Kodaikanal and Puducherry, and also the other inciting mob violence. I mean, where is that coming from?
I would first like to touch upon this aspect of democracy which you brought, saying that it's healthy to question. I think we all agree it's very healthy to question, but there is a way to question and there is a forum to question. It is not in front of the JCB usually. When there is a government authorized work ongoing in Auroville, like Frederick was saying that he's very happy with the government of India and he's very grateful, this is absolutely not the way to show gratitude, nor is it the right way to express dissent. So that being said, the charge on the benami properties, it's not coming from me, it's coming from an inquiry committee report. And the inquiry committee was constituted by the governing board in 2019. And they went into allegations leveled against many residents by Vikram Ramakrishnan. And they found prima facie evidence to involve central agency of investigation into the affairs of these residents. Frederick happens to be named in this report, and it's a public document. And secondly, I was quoted in the Times of India as having said that Frederick organized a mob attack. I would like to take the chance to say that I never said that. I said that he participated in a mob attack, which is
all right.
true.
Even if he says participated, what is that mob attack?
So the mob attack is an attack which happened by a group of residents, about 50 residents. On February 3rd, they walked into the town hall offices, found a few members of the working committee and FAMC alone. One FAMC member, a very elderly FAMC member, was found alone. She was cornered in her office, and there is video recording and evidence of her being verbally assaulted, shamed, bad words used. And Frederick was part of this mob attack, I must say, in the front line. So all of this is on tape, of course. So there's no, two ways about it, if you will. So this is what my statement to the Times of India was based on.
Right. Sindhuja, the thing is that yes, he may, what you say, I'll go by what you're saying, that obstructing developmental work and also the inquiry committee report and things like that. But, he says that why stop what is it that I have done where I deserve that I may not be given an extension, because he says this is my home, which it truly is, because he's been living here for decades now. He says my children live here, my grandchildren live here. I just want to ask you that, there is nothing that you and I can do because it's coming from the MHA or it's a recommendation. But the point is that is there any chance that Frederick, if he apologizes or if he does not do what he's not supposed to do, that certain things can come to fruition and maybe that can be taken back? Sindhuja, I know that you are not the authority. I'm just asking you a question.
Well, like you say, I cannot speak for the authorities, but what I have seen in the last 3 years alone is that India is a very, very large and forgiving country.
Oh, yes.
Frederick himself said that Auroville is an experiment that would have not happened anywhere else in the world, and India has allowed it to happen here, given visas, and given if the residents are complying with the norms of Auroville, with the residence criteria of Auroville, I don't see any reason why the Indian government should choose to take the visa away. Because it is in goodwill that those people are invited here, and it is in goodwill that they must continue. But if they continue to show bad will, I don't see any reason why India is, obliged to give anybody a visa. A visa is not a right. A visa is not, it's not an entitlement of Frederick just because he has spent all this time here. If he does not comply to the norms of what Auroville stands for, then I don't see why India should make concessions, because if they do this with him, they show the example for every other resident in Auroville. But I am not here saying for a second that he should be or should not be given a leave India notice, or he should not be allowed to stay here. Why not? If he's truly repenting his actions, if he wants to go forward and support the development of Auroville and no longer obstruct it like he has been notably doing in the past, then I don't see why India would not consider it. But this is not up to me to say whether they would or not, of course.
Okay, Sundhaja, before I let you go, last question is that obstructing developmental work, and that is very serious the way you say. Do you think that that has also caused a huge financial loss for Auroville?
It's caused a huge financial loss, it's caused a huge energy loss, and it's caused a huge time loss. There's been so many frivolous court cases filed by all sorts of residents, Indian residents, who are backed up by a faction of residents who are non-Indian residents also. And the Supreme Court has recently noted in its judgment that these cases are frivolous. It's not a small thing to say from the apex court. And they have levied a fine of 50,000 rupees upon one person who had filed the case. So this goes to show that it's not a joke what's happening here. It's not as light as what they would make it out to be, that yeah, we're just kind of protesting and expressing our dissent and look what's happening to us. It's not like that. You don't show up on a construction site and stop the machines. It's just not done. Just imagine, Sudha, if you and I go in France and do the same thing, or to Germany and do the same thing on a visa, on a permissive visa, do you think the French or the German government would take it lightly? I don't think so. So I think what is being asked here of India, this kind of leniency to ignore criminal behavior, I would say, is a little bit much. And if rectification of behavior is done, then I don't see why India will not, because India has only proven itself to be generous.